everyone, this is going to be interesting. This is my first attempt at a YouTube video, one where I actually sit down and discuss something on my mind. This is a really interesting time. I'm just now coming back to school after a very, very long winter break. Classes are online for the first week because of COVID concerns and just making sure that everybody's negative before we get back in person next week. So that's where we're at. Something that's just been on my mind lately is just the amount of growth that I've done on myself in the past, not even just the past month that I've been home from school since break, but just the past like 2-3 years because of the pandemic. Obviously it was not fun to be stuck at home, and it's not fun to kind of see the world falling apart because of this global sickness, but I've said and I'll continue to say that this time by myself has taught me so many things about what I want out of life and the type of person that I want to be with myself and in relation to others, my goals, my hopes, my dreams. And it's been a really emotionally fulfilling time, even if at times it's emotionally taxing. This was a time when I really got into my prayer, my meditation, manifestation, other spiritual work. It's been a time where I've really tapped into my hobbies and my creative pursuits, again, my interests. It had been so long before I just sat down and read a book. Like, it'd been such a long time, but over the pandemic was when I finally had time to just sit and read a book, and I've read so many since then, because in my childhood I used to read a lot. But you know, when you get into the higher levels of education, you start doing a lot of academic writing, and it can kind of kill and academic reading, and it can kind of kill your love of creative writing and pleasure reading. But this time has really made me reevaluate things and made me be more in tune with just the things I love and the kind of person that I want to be. And also I've done a lot of self-help kind of things where I have read a lot of these self-help kind of books. One of my favorite people in that category is Brene Brown. Obviously her vulnerability TED Talk is one of the most popular on the platform, and she has 2 books. It's the, I hope this doesn't flip. It's the I thought it was just me, but it isn't. Making the journey from what will people think to I am enough, and then Daring Greatly, obviously, which is the more well-known one, I believe. Subtitle, How the Courage to Be Vulnerable Transforms the Way We Live, Love, Parent, and Lead. Another one that I've read multiple times is Powerful and Feminine by Rachel Gruber. I'm kind of blanking on the subtitle right now, but that was one of the big ones. Other ones kind of centered around dating, romance, why men love bitches, and the power of the P-word cat. You don't want to get demonetized. So I've just read a lot of these books on kind of being your best self and crafting the life that you want. But I think I'm at this point now where action is required. You can read all of the books and you can do all of the meditation and the journaling and the prayer and the shadow work, but there comes a point in your process. What in the world kind of grasshopper going on outside my window? There comes a point when you really have to take inspired action, because if you're just stuck within yourself, you can't really be in a relationship with other people, if you understand what I mean. So that's something that I've been struggling with, because we are in a pandemic and we are in a space where we do have to prioritize safety. So it's really about finding ways to connect with other people within those constraints. And I think something that I've realized recently, very recently especially, is kind of deconstructing this idea of the self-help and self-love capitalist venture that it's turned into, and also deconstructing what it means to, be able to attain your personal goals and whatever you specifically define as success. I think especially on social media, especially TikTok, this whole idea of self-love and leveling up has really become a way in which to garner attention. And that's something that's very typical of social media. Like, something that can start off as being something that's more genuine can turn into, you know, a way just to get clout and a way to just get more attention for yourself as an online presence. But I just think that there are things that are wrong with this stance now, and it's become something that's a little bit toxic, and I'm gonna go into that a little bit in this video. I think that, you know, it's obviously a good thing to love yourself and to love every part of you and to appreciate the person that you are and and have the determination and the strength to work toward your short and long-term goals on a daily basis. But I think that people have kind of turned it into kind of an unattainable goal, and I'll go into that a little bit. I believe that there's this idea, well, I know that there's this idea that's been going around, especially on TikTok and a lot of other social media platforms, that in order to get what you want out of life, in order to attain your goals, you have to be the proverbial best version of yourself. You know, people will often say, you can't expect others to love you until you love yourself. And especially when it comes to dating, people say stuff like this, and as someone who has never been in a relationship, a romantic, exclusive relationship especially, like, this is something that kind of hits a nerve and is kind of annoying to keep hearing over and over again. People will constantly say, you know, you can't love yourself until you love anybody else. So you have to put in the work you have to put in the work to yourself or on yourself, and only then is when people are going to start being attracted to you. And there's definitely truth to that statement, but I think my problem, first of all, obviously comparison is the thief of joy, and comparing yourself to others just is really toxic for yourself, and it's also just not really something accurate that you should be doing that will adequately help you, because everybody's life and everybody's path is different. But I think one of the issues that I have always had is kind of comparing myself to others, especially those that I would see on social media, and even a lot of times in like romance novels. I've always been a book girl, and I've always loved romance novels of any kind, in any genre. If there's a sprinkle of romance in it, like, I'm all over it. And that's just something that has always been, like, whenever I would see stuff like that, whether it be in a book or online or in a movie, and there would be romance involved, I would get this little pang in my chest. That's what I would call it. The pang in my chest of kind of jealousy, kind of longing, maybe a little bit of bitterness, and of course sadness. And it can be hard, especially when you're seeing people in real life that you know who have something that you want, that you feel as though you're lacking. It can be hard to reconcile with that. It can be hard to reconcile with the observed fact that, like, there are people in your space and in your peer group and in your interpersonal community that have something that you don't have and that you've always wanted. And so this message in the most recent iteration of the self-help, self-love movement is basically saying that, you know, even though there are those of us who have gone our whole lives without a certain thing, right? It's kind of telling us that you still have work to do, and you still have things to do before you're able to reach that point in life. And it can be really discouraging because, as I said earlier, I had participated in a lot of typical self-help activities that I listed earlier on in the video, and even with doing all of those things, people still act like, you know, obviously you must be doing something wrong because you didn't meet this goal. And it can also kind of put forth this assumption that even though you have done all of the work that people say is necessary to get to where you want in life, there are other people who can just simply attain things easier. And even though that by itself is the adequate conclusion to that, you know, some, like, luck is a big factor in it, everybody's path is different, but it can really seem like there's something inherently wrong with you that's making it so difficult for you to obtain something even after years of work. Like, I have always kind of been on a path of self-acceptance and discovery about myself, but especially in the past 3 years since the pandemic officially started, like, I have really been on this path of trying to figure out who I am, what I want out of life, and doing all of these things on pretty much a daily basis in order to figure those things out. And even with that, you know, in many ways I still am in the same place. And that is okay. And I'm in the process now of training my mind to understand that objective fact. And it's very hard. It's very hard to make your mind shift over into more healthy, helpful states of mind. And something that really began to change my perspective on this, because prior to having this moment of revelation, I had just thought either one of two things. One being, I just have to continue working at it, and that's what I just have to do, even if it just feels unfair. Or it was, you know, maybe I just don't deserve it. You know, something that helped me was this video that my best friend Ray and I discovered. This video, I forgot the girl's name that quickly, but I will put the title on the screen and the title of her channel. This video this girl posted, at this point it has about, what does it have, like 90,000 views? This video entitled, "I Hate Myself and That's Okay." And we saw this, we were like, that seems a little suspicious and weird, to hate yourself and be okay with it. But once we watched it, we really understood her point. And she was basically saying things very similar to what I'm saying now, in the sense that, you know, the self-help movement started as a very productive thing, teaching people, especially young women in society, to love ourselves, because it is hard when you're constantly being pushed typical messages that are detrimental to women's mental health. It can be hard to really have consistent self-love and confidence and self-assuredness, I guess is a word that you can say. But, you know, it can be hard to have those things, and it can be hard to consistently maintain that within yourself, even though it is possible to have it at one point. And she just discussed this idea that, you know, even if you aren't confident, or even if you don't love yourself in a certain moment, it is like everybody deserves to have love. And it's not just limited to romantic love. It's all types of love. Everybody is deserving of romantic love, platonic love, familial love, because honestly, there's only so much that we can do as human beings to create this feeling of community within ourselves. I think that a lot of the current self-help movement is teaching people to have community within themselves, but community is community. It's not just a singular person. And I forgot someone sent me this tweet that a celebrity, I think it might have been Gabrielle Union, she tweeted something along the lines of, you know, self-love and self-esteem are not created in a vacuum, meaning that, you know, people do require a level of external validation in order to really feel as though they are genuinely appreciated. And there's definitely a truth to that, and that's something that I'm really figuring out on my own. Like, right now, I feel as though I've done so much work on myself, and I'm more confident than I've been in a very long time. But I do acknowledge that there is still a part of me that is lonely and that is yearning for that type of connection, because I do have a great family and support system. I don't have a ton of friends, but I have a few really good friends that have been there for me consistently, and I'm in school currently, and I'm really fulfilled by that as well. But there is still that aspect of my life, that romantic aspect, that has not come to fruition yet, and that's still missing. And sometimes it does suck, and sometimes it does get me down considerably. And whenever I read these books that I still love so much, I still feel that pang in my chest of, when is it my turn? Why isn't this me? And everybody has a different path, but we can't fault ourselves for having these urges. We can't fault ourselves for feeling a certain way when, human beings were built to be intimate with other human beings, not just in a sexual way, but in a romantic way, in a platonic way, in a familial way. Like, there's so many different ways how to love another human being. And that, to me, it transcends anything about your career, what you have, where you live. To me, my biggest goal in life, simply put, is just to love other human beings and to be loved by human beings. And I think that we're in a place now where people will almost ridicule you and make you feel bad if you haven't had that experience and if you are kind of lamenting that. And yes, there does come a point when you have to pick yourself up and essentially, like in a harsh way, get on with your life. But, people are being really, I guess, mean about it. And I've been seeing more and more videos of young women especially coming out and saying, I'm 25, 26, and I've never been in a relationship, never had anybody look at me in a romantic way, and it sucks, and it's something I cry about. And even though I'm 21, I resonate with that. I've never had the experience where, many people were knocking down my door trying to go out with me or go to school dances with me. And again, never had that kind of romantic relationship with someone. And it can be hard. And I'm just kind of over the narrative in the current iteration of the self-help movement that we apparently have to be at our peak, at our absolute best selves before we can even dream of attaining the things that we want out of life. Because no matter what stage you're in, everybody is deserving of love and appreciation. Like, that's one of the most human experiences that we can have. And I think that to tell people that you're not deserving of that unless you do certain things, it doesn't really add up. Because once you do all of those things, once you've done all the journaling, once you've done all the manifestation and the prayer and the reading, sometimes it can feel like there's nothing more for you to do, because a lot of people are pushing this narrative that is what you have to do. But then when you don't have your desired outcome, it's like they're punishing you for it. So that's just something that has been really sticking with me, and it's just making me, one, have more compassion for others, and also having more compassion for myself. We have an outfit change because by the time my last class ended yesterday or last night and I went to finish the video, I was too tired and it just wasn't going to work out. So here we are. I think kind of to go off on the last point that I made, and I guess to wrap up the video, I just want to talk about some things that I believe we can do to kind of counteract the toxic messaging that we get from this current iteration of the self-help, self-improvement movement. I do have a little list. One of the things that has been really helpful to me is knowing that we all deserve love and companionship and appreciation at every stage. Human beings, I believe, are pack animals. We do our best work in collaboration with other people, especially other like-minded individuals, and especially people who have a genuine level of care and concern about us. And I think that it's not really helpful to shy away from that nature that we have as humans. And we also shouldn't push this idea that we're only worthy of that level of connection when we have all of our stuff together. Because even the most put together people who seemingly have it all and seemingly have everything together and have it all figured out, they really don't. It's all just lies. And if it seems like that, they're either just like deliberately hiding it, or they just for some reason look very put together on the surface. Everybody has things that they are figuring out. Everybody has chaos in their lives, and I wish that we were more honest about that, because at the moment it really does seem like you have to be a certain way or be a certain type of person or have certain things accomplished in order to get the things that you want. And I just think that's toxic. So that's one of the main things. Something else that I have been examining is this whole social media phenomenon of being that girl. And I'll link some videos in the description box that kind of delve into what I'm talking about. Basically, every few years there's a certain aesthetic or, I guess for lack of a better word, there is a certain aesthetic that will run through social media, and everybody, especially women and girls, will aspire to this standard, even though, of course, it's not real. And you can never be at a certain level like that all the time. And the whole idea of being that girl, simply put, and again, you can check out the videos in the description box, it's this idea that you're the girl that wakes up at 5:30 in the morning to work out, or you're the girl who makes her own smoothies and makes her own lattes. You're the girl who's perpetually dressed in workout gear because she's always ready to work out at a moment's notice. She has her whole day pretty much figured out and almost done by 9 a.m. That kind of girl. And that's great, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't have standards or personal goals, but I think that when these types of aesthetics make the rounds of social media, it almost becomes like the current societal community golden standard, and people look down on you if you don't follow this standard. And it kind of creates a one-size-fits-all approach for bettering yourself, and makes it seem as though there's only one way to have a successful life, or even just to have a successful day. And it also kind of takes away the agency for people to define success on their own personal levels. And an interesting video that I saw to kind of counteract this was this idea of putting your focus on being this girl instead of that girl. Meaning that instead of changing a bunch of things about yourself to fit into a lifestyle or a structure that you can't maintain long term, focusing on what you can do in the present moment and just on a day-to-day basis to improve yourself and to be the best version of yourself. So instead of saying, after today I'm going to wake up every day at 5 a.m. to work out, I'm going to plan out my whole day, I'm going to be done with everything by 9 a.m., I'm never going to have a moment of rest. Oop, the camera shut off, I'm sorry. But going off of what I was saying earlier about this girl thing, you can just decide your goals and what you define success as on a daily basis. You can just say, tomorrow I define success by working out for at least 30 minutes, or tomorrow I define success by doing 15 minutes of creative writing, or tomorrow I define success as getting all of my errands done. And even going beyond task-oriented things, you can say things like, tomorrow I define success by putting the best energy out there that I can and being open to the people around me and being kind to the people around me. I think that putting more of an emphasis on present day-to-day actions instead of a lofty ideal that nobody can ever fulfill, consistently at least, I think that will be more effective. And I think the next point going off of that is just a general idea of staying in the present moment, being present with the people and the environment around you. I've noticed that, one of the biggest takeaways for me was that I noticed that a lot of my issues came because I was not in the present moment enjoying the people, the environment, and the energy around me. I was so focused on what my potential future would be like, as well as kind of lamenting the things that went wrong in my past. And by doing those things, I lost sight of the beautiful moments in the present that I could have been a part of, and that could have been instrumental things for me, or just even fun memories to look back on. I lost out on so many of those things because I was just so focused on the past and the future, neither of which I can change or control at the current moment. But things that you can do to increase your presence in the moment are just taking time to ground yourself in your body. I think oftentimes when you're not present, you kind of find yourself in a lot of mental space, but I think that being present is more of an in-body experience. So what I've been working on now is when I need to feel present, I kind of do a brief pause from whatever I'm doing and I do a check-in. How is my body feeling? How's, my stomach or my hands feeling? How am I, like, what are my emotions in this moment? What are the sensations I'm feeling in this moment? What's going on around me? What am I currently doing? And I think that we often spend so much time obsessing over the things that we want or the things that we're working toward that we lose sight of all of the amazing things that are happening right now. So that's something that's been really helping me as well. Also, kind of in the realm of being present, also practicing gratitude is really important, and that's a huge thing that I've learned. I have really, over this past 3 years or so, I've really taken into account how much privilege I have and how many blessings there are in my life in terms of family, my few good friends, my education, my health, my families, and just my general loved ones health, health, not help, but also they do help me out a lot too. So, hey, maybe I meant to say it, but I think also when we don't practice being present, we kind of lose sight of the things that we can be grateful for. And it's important to be grateful. It's important to show gratitude to God or whatever higher power you believe in, as well as the people in your life who have provided things for you. And also practicing gratitude about certain things that you've been given or that you have in this moment also raises your energy, and people can sense when you have heightened energy, which I've noticed. I have been very intentional about practicing elevating my energy and being the best version of myself by, practicing gratitude, practicing positivity, and it's amazing how people have just responded to me in such a positive, different way because of those intentional choices that I've been making. And kind of going off of that, probably be my last point is just continuing the practice of putting out good energy into the world. I've always said, and my mom has also always said, it's very easy to approach the world with cold energy. It's very easy to approach the world and to approach the people around you with bad vibes because we've just been accustomed to doing that, and the world and the powers that be and the media are often telling us that people around us are our enemies. And I think that based on the experiences we have in life, you can get caught up in believing that. But it's just amazing how people have responded to me so much better and so much differently because I made a personal choice to be the best version of myself whenever I leave the house and just treat people with kindness. Especially being in this pandemic and just observing in the media and in the political world over the past few years, people are very much suffering, and we never have an idea of what people may be going through at any given moment. So choosing to be that good person and choosing to put out good energy into the world and just being kind to people, you'll be amazed at how far it takes you. And you should want to be kind, I don't get this whole idea that a lot of people have latched on to of, it's empowering or it's cute to be mean and nasty to people. I don't understand that. And if that makes me in the minority or if it makes me weird, then so be it. I'll enjoy being weird. With that, thank you guys so much for listening. I will put all of the links to the videos and other things that I've mentioned below, as well as my social media, and I hope to catch you on my channel the next time.